Hello, friends. I'm George, the nice meeting gentleman. If you like any of these three fragrances, or in general you like the note of iris, and you're looking for a cheaper alternative, budget-friendly alternative, then watch this video. And let's start with an alternative to Valentino Uomo Intense. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite fragrances. It combines a few great notes, including, of course, the main player, the note of iris, but there's also a bit of freshness up top from a mandarin note. On the dry down, there's some vanilla and also a very nice leathery note in here that gives the whole fragrance a very sexy and very manly sort of smell. As I said, absolutely love this one, but it's a sort of a hard fragrance to find and usually costs quite a lot. So let me show you an alternative to Valentino Uomo Intense that costs roughly about $25 maximum. And that's from the brand of Saint Hilaire. The fragrance is called Ombre Chic. Now, it's a very cheap package. The bottle looks quite cheap, although it has a nice weight to it. But the cap is plastic, very cheap. All in all, the whole packaging, when you look at the fragrance, justifies the price tag. But don't be fooled by that because the scent inside, the fragrance inside, is actually quite nice. Now, when it comes to how similar this fragrance is to Valentino Uomo Intense, I would say maybe about 90%. The note breakdown of this fragrance is practically the same as with the Valentino Uomo Intense, but what I miss here compared to the Valentino is there's not enough freshness up top compared to Valentino Uomo Intense. So the that mandarin, that orange note in here is not as prominent, not as fresh. And then on the dry down, the fragrance, it has leather in here like with Valentino Uomo Intense, but it just doesn't feel as dense. The whole fragrance feels a bit more airy, a bit more hollow, if that makes sense to you. But that's when you smell it up close next to your skin. In the air, those two fragrances, the Valentino Uomo Intense and the Ambre Chic, are very, very similar. And unless you are very familiar with the way that the Valentino Uomo Intense smells, you probably will have a hard time to tell which is which. Performance here also is quite good. To be honest, as much as I love the Valentino Uomo Intense, it's never been a great performer for me. It's doing all right. I get about 8 hours out of it, but sometimes, in some cases, the Ombre Chic is even slightly longer lasting compared to the Valentino. This gives me at least 8 hours, sometimes pushing it up to about 9 hours. Next, let's move on to a alternative again to something that can serve as an alternative to Valentino Uomo Intense, but also to Dior Homme Original, or as it was known before 2020, simply Dior Homme. This is the original fragrance that made the note of iris famous in men's perfumery. Absolutely fantastic fragrance, one of my all-time favorites again. And the alternative comes from the house of Armaf, and it's called the Futura L'Homme. This one a little bit more expensive compared to the first one, the Ombre Chic that I showed you. The whole packaging here feels like it has a little bit higher quality. The bottle feels nicer and has more weight to it. The cap is metal, although the sprayer is actually quite horrible, leaky. But other than that, the packaging is nice. And this fragrance, compared to the Dior Homme Original, is quite similar. Again, I would put the similarity at around about 90%. Where this differs is, in fact, in this case, it feels a little bit denser and a little bit sweeter compared to the Dior Homme Original. Now, Dior Homme Original is also a very sweet fragrance, but it has sort of that floral sweetness to it. Whereas with the Futura L'Homme, the sweetness comes a little bit more not only from the iris note but also from quite strong sort of a chocolatey cacao note in here. As I said, feels a bit denser. Performance here is quite similar with the Dior Homme Original. Dior Homme Original usually gives me about 8 hours of performance with sort of a moderate projection in the first about hour and a half, and that's pretty much what I get from Futura L'Homme from Armaf. The next fragrance that I'm going to show you is going to be sort of a bonus one. I decided to include this in the last possible moment before shooting this video, so I don't have prepared the original fragrance that this tries to replicate with me at the moment. But What I'm talking about is an alternative to Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Parfum. Now, this is another very famous fragrance which has the note of iris, although it's not very prominent and is not the main note like with all the other fragrances that I'm showing you today in this video. But still, it has enough of a presence in there to sort of change the whole scent profile and to make it a really interesting one. Now, again, Le Mot Le Parfum, one of my favorite fragrances, and I was looking for an alternative for quite a while before I was finally able to find one. And it comes from the house of Ajmal, and it's called the Ajmal Vibe For Him. Um, this, I wouldn't call it exactly a clone. I think the best way to sort of explain what this feels is like, again, alternative, or maybe like this could serve as a flanker to Le Mot Le Parfum. The way that it differs, this doesn't feel as sweet like Le Mot Le Parfum. The vanilla note in here and the iris notes are not as sweet as with the Jean Paul Gaultier fragrance. This feels a bit more woody, feels, I don't know, maybe a tad bit more serious or more mature compared to Le Mot Le Parfum. Also, this lacks a bit of performance compared to Le Mot Le Parfum, which has been always a great performer for me. Gives me every time 10 plus hours of performance on skin. This one is about 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours, with moderate projection in the first hour and a half. But the price tag here is super low. This I paid about $20 for this bottle. It comes in a 75 milliliter bottle size, so that's a bit of a downside. But again, will get you quite close to Le Mot Le Parfum scent wise with decent performance. And the last alternative for this video is going to be one for your Homme Intense. A fantastic fragrance, one of the most beloved fragrances in when it comes to men's fragrances in the community. It's such a beautiful thing. It changes a little bit. It just sort of builds onto the scent profile of the original Dior Homme original. This feels a bit more stronger, a bit more manly, a bit more mature. um, has a bit more woodiness in here, some leather, feels a little bit denser and has better performance. Great fragrance, but it's quite expensive. So let me show you a fragrance that can serve as a great alternative and costs about 4 times less compared to the original Dior Homme Intense. And it comes from the house of Al Wataniah, and it's called Kayaan Classic. Now, just to make things clear, the Al Wataniah brand is a sub brand of Latafa. So at the end of the day, we're talking about a Latafa fragrance in here. Fantastic quality of the whole presentation. It comes in nice box. The bottle has a nice heft to it. The cap is metal. The sprayer is nice. All in all, great presentation. Uh, Price wise, this costs about a quarter of the price of your Homme Intense, and scent wise, this will get you about 95% close to the original scent. It's that good. One of the best clones that I've ever tried. The way that this differs is that it's a tad bit sweeter compared to your Homme Intense, both in the opening and then on the dry down as well. The whole fragrance has a slightly stronger chocolatey cacao vibe to it, cacao sweetness, chocolatey sweetness to it compared to your Homme Intense. Other than that, super close. Performance wise, is not as close to the original. Original is probably in beast mode territory when it comes to performance. Easily 10, 11, 12 hours. This one gives me about 8 to 9 hours with a good projection in the first about 2 hours. And so in today's video, I showed you 4 alternatives to 4 very famous iris-based designer fragrances. I hope that you found this video interesting or helpful. If you did, give it a like. I would greatly appreciate if you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my future content. Stay safe, and I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye bye.